Okay, good evening, everybody. Before we get started, I just want to again remind everybody if you need copies of the schedules, programs, things that are going on, please check the website. All of the lectures that I'm doing are being recorded, and we normally have them on the website probably by tomorrow night sometime, hopefully. And you can find them on the website under Vince's Corner. You can scroll down to the bottom and you'll find them there, okay? So we're doing that with all the lectures. I do want to mention that this is the last, now there's one more after this in the series. And then I'll be doing a 4-week series in October on relationships. The schedules for all the lectures and activities are on the website. Okay. Also, we can't pass the basket, it's obvious, but we have a virtual basket. We have a Venmo number, it's in the chat room. And if anybody's interested in putting something in it, feel free to do so. Okay. We're going to begin tonight with a reading. I picked a reading from The Language of Letting Go, which is the other meditation book for codependency. And I picked the one from September 22nd. Trusting ourselves. Many of us believe that heeding the words of God or a higher power meant following rigid rules, an instruction booklet for life. Many of us now believe differently. The rigid rules, the endless instructions, the exhortations of perfectionism are not the words of a higher power. The words of God are often those still, small words we call intuition or instinct, leading and guiding us forward. We are free to be who we are, to listen to and trust ourselves. We are free to listen to the gentle, loving words of a higher power, words whispered to and through each of us. Today, help me, God, to let go of shame-based rigid rules. I will choose the freedom of loving, listening, and trusting. I wanted to share that because tonight we're going to be doing the 8th and 9th step of the self-parenting series. And just to kind of bring those steps out to you, the 8th step reads, learn self-forgiveness and made amends to our inner child. The 9th step, healed our inner child by realizing the promises of self-parenting in our daily living. If you notice something very basic, so many of us for a long period of time have been stuck. I know in my own journey I could relate to this. For a long period of time, I had no idea who I was, no sense of myself at all. And literally I was living an external life because there was no internal. And so I'm learning over and over again that for a long period of time, my inner child never had a voice. My inner child was never able to speak. So my inner child just basically followed the game plan that was put out before him. And so as a result, so many of us have had those rules. Children should be seen and not heard, and that basically children very many times are not given the opportunity to express how they feel. And so in doing the self-parenting process, we talked about that concept of a higher parent giving our inner child permission to begin to open up, to begin to get in touch with feelings, and to go through a process of healing. The thing I've learned, I want to use the example once again of the 3-legged stool. There are 3 basic legs we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about forgiveness. We're going to talk about closure. We're going to talk about healing. Forgiveness is based in the 8th step. We go back for a couple of seconds. So many of us, because we were closed up for a long period of time, needed permission or a way in which we could express ourselves. So in the 4th step, we were given permission by our higher parent to take the time to go back, to take a look at our life, at our history, at our childhood, and begin to literally put it on paper, begin to actually get in touch with it, and allow our inner child to be able to express its feelings. And then in the 5th step, we allowed that child to share those feelings. In expressing their feelings and in sharing, sometimes the child was a little raw, because it hurts, especially when you bury stuff for a long period of time. And I can attest to that in my own life because I can say this today, and it's actually scary. For the first 42 to 44 years of my life, I was frozen. In fact, I actually conducted my father's funeral, preached at it, conducted my mother's funeral, preached at it, because I knew back then I didn't really have a lot of feelings. I had buried a lot. And I basically went through rituals. I went through things to basically function and perform on the outside. I did a good job, because so many times adult children and codependents have a tendency to look good on the outside, but we're frozen solid on the inside. And so basically, when I began to thaw out, to get in touch with my feelings, I began to make changes in my life. Basically, it was scary. And that's where these steps are very important, because these steps 4 through 9, I call them the working steps. We actually learn the importance of sharing, the importance of opening up, and the importance of basically going through a process called forgiveness. In the 6th and 7th step, we talked about being human, having a sense of our humanity, having a sense of humility and humor. Tonight, we're going to share a lot in the 8th step about self-forgiveness. What we have learned over the years is that it's our job as the higher parent to make amends to our inner child, to make amends to the fact that we never gave that child permission. We never allowed that child to be able to share its feelings, to be in touch with its feelings. For a long period of time, we tried to protect that child, either by isolation, by denial, by staying stuck, by anger, and spent a lot of time being angry. And maybe our parents, being angry at our family, being angry at society, being angry at a lot of things on the outside, someone who hurt us, someone who may have abused us. All that anger, all that stuff is really the reality that deep down inside we're going through a grieving process. But one of the protections we do a lot of times is the protection of denial. I don't want to deal with stuff, so I have to make believe it doesn't exist. And that's where that outside image comes into play. But then I have to realize something. I have to be able to break denial and be able to feel the anger, feel the feelings. But unfortunately, as a higher parent, I really was feeling these same things myself. So basically, I don't know how to direct the inner child. And so I spent a lot of my time, even as an adult, being angry at my family, being angry at my parents, being angry at the world around me, being angry at the church, being angry at a lot of things, because I was raised in the concept that they're the ones who did this to me. When in reality, and the 8th step is telling me to learn self-forgiveness. Learn to heal and forgive yourself. Learn to calm down. But also to make amends to the inner child. And tell that little child deep down inside of you, I'm sorry I never gave you a voice, but now I want to do that. To make amends and let that child begin its process of growing, its process of healing. Being able to help that child to make closure, to make settlement on so many things in the child's life. And yet it's so important for us to give the child that permission. But we can't do that without the help of our higher power, without the help of a support system and people around us. Because we need people to be able to share this stuff with. And so the reality is making amends to myself and to my inner child is primary. So I've learned something. You really can't make amends in other areas of your life. You begin by making amends to yourself. The one person we hurt the most on our journey is ourselves. Many of us were tough on ourselves. We got caught up in expectations. That it tends to beat ourselves up a lot, to be hard on ourselves. Now we have to learn how to take that little precious child and be able to help that child to heal, to forgive. So we have to make amends to that child. Let that child know how much we love that child, how special that child is, and how we are going to be an advocate for that child. And being an advocate simply means that as I work on my own stuff, I'm working on the stuff of my inner child too. So what I've learned as a result of these steps, especially the 8th and 9th step, I've learned to begin the process of forgiving, to forgive my family, to forgive people, to forgive things I really used to be angry at for a long period of time. You know, I can say this today in a very humble way, in a very special way. I truly believe My parents were given to me for a purpose. My parents were my first teachers. Were they have forms of dysfunctionality? We all do. 6 and 7 step teaches us that. But the concept is, I have to be able to accept them, learn from them, and grow from them. Things happen in life, but we can't continue to give negative things power over us. And so in the 8th and 9th step, we're learning the healing process of releasing that negative stuff, letting it out. So we no longer give power to the negativity. We no longer give power to the negative stuff that happened. We have to acknowledge it, be in touch with it. We have to embrace it. Because so many times we get stuck in the bargaining stage because we don't want to feel the sadness. We don't want to have to feel things in our life. But acceptance is one of the most beautiful spiritual words on the face of this earth. If you come to acceptance, you come to peace. And so I have to be able to accept the reality of my family and be able to love them where they're at, not where I want them to be. To help the child to look at their family systems and learn from them and grow from them and see the positive side of them. I always tell a story, and I've probably told it a few times, but I remember how excited I got when I got involved in my ACOA and my codependency issues. I began to find out what this stuff really was all about. I got excited because, like you or anybody else, I got intellectually stimulated about all this stuff. And so as a result, then, I literally wanted to tell my family about it. So as crazy as I am, of course, I picked Thanksgiving Day to tell my family about it. So you got to visualize this. Visualize going to a huge Italian family, getting ready for Thanksgiving, and telling them what a great thing I discovered. I discovered this thing called codependency. Of course, they didn't know what it was. Secondly, I told them I found out that our family was dysfunctional. They got extremely excited, very excited. In fact, no one talked to me for the rest of the entire meal. The most miserable Thanksgiving meal I ever had in my life. I couldn't figure out what's wrong with them. I'm telling them things they can do to make things better. So I started getting angry at them and getting mad at them. They don't understand. Why don't they understand? Why don't they listen? Why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? And my own anger was starting to come out. I realized something today. By going through the self-parenting process and working through these steps, I realized my family is my family. I have to be able to accept them where they're at, love them where they're at, spend time with them, and respect them for who they are. I love my family today. I can spend time with them. You know, before my aunts died, I used to spend time with them, have a cup of coffee. You know, we had a lot of fun. We talked about how many heart attacks they had, how many knee replacements they went through, and the old neighborhoods, how things were back in Camden years ago. It was called small talk. It was nice talk. We just shared things together. I didn't talk about recovery or codependency or the things I'm dealing with today because that was not the proper place for it. And so I'm learning today, I was part of that family because I was supposed to be part of that family. I was there to learn lessons from them and grow from them. Even when we go through trauma, even the trauma of abuse very many times, we have to learn lessons from it. We have to move forward. The hardest part is acceptance of the reality of what is, and then to be able to heal that reality and be able to learn something positive and beautiful from it. A good friend of mine who was severely abused as a child, when she finally got into good recovery and worked on herself, she actually was able to say this to me: Vince, you know what? Now I understand. I look at my back and my history and the abuse that took place, and one thing, it gave me a gift. I said, what gift? It gave me the gift to know what abuse is. And today, I no longer allow anyone to abuse me, and I have chosen not to abuse anyone else. So from what happened to her, she learned something positive through the power of healing, through the power of acceptance. And she learned to realize the fact that if we can learn this, that 9th step teaches us we have to heal our inner child by realizing the promises that come to a child, that come to us in our life, if we go through the process of healing. It's so beautiful to look at this because some of the beautiful things we're going to learn in the process of healing the ninth step is the gift of abundance. To know there's so much that we can do, we can experience, we can go through, to be able to look at the positive things, the gifts that we have inside of ourselves. And to see that in a sense of abundance, in a sense of learning, sense of growing. That's the excitement of life today. Knowing to speak from your heart, from the inside of you, not from here. I also tell the story when I was a young priest, because a lot of you probably wouldn't have liked me too much when I was a young priest, because I was still kind of stuck a little bit in that world of rules, regulations, rigidity. And I guess I was a little bit angry then too. I was kind of in a crazy place. But when I used to get my sermons, here's how crazy I was. I used to write them, memorize them, go over to an empty church and practice them. I had to make sure I had them perfectly. Then on Sunday morning, in 2 minutes, everybody was asleep. Because it really wasn't me speaking. It really was my head speaking. What I've learned today is when I speak from my heart, from the inside of me, I don't need to have stuff memorized. I don't need to be experience the things we go through in life. And so we actually allow that little child to know that these experiences, these things that child has gone through are all teachable moments. They're a way to learn and grow. Even addiction as we get older can be a teachable moment. It can bring us the gift of recovery. I look at my mom. I love my mom. But my mom gave me this fantastically wonderful gift as a child. It was called my addictive personality. Isn't that wonderful? Well, today I look at it as something wonderful because today has brought me a lot of beautiful things in my life today. It's brought me all of you. It's brought me so many people I'm connected to today. So many beautiful gifts that come from this. But we have to be able to get to that point. We're able to look at the beautiful, beautiful promises, the gifts we can get from all this. And I really believe that through the gift of healing, through the gift of forgiveness, through the gift of faith, beautiful things will come our way. And those things are very powerful, very beautiful. We have to teach our little child to be spontaneous, be able to play, to have fun, to loosen up, to laugh, to enjoy life. Laughter is such a gift. So many of us have forgotten how to play, forgotten how to have fun, forgotten how to kid around. We need to do more of that. Because so many times we're so uptight. So healing and forgiveness, doing closure with the past, learning from it, gives us the gift of spontaneity. We can be more spontaneous. We can play more. We can have more fun. We can loosen up more. We can laugh. A beautiful thing in life is a good, healthy laugh. Even to laugh at things sometimes that aren't funny. I even look at my family now and I can laugh at some of the stuff we went through, some of the stuff we did, some of the crazy stuff. I'll tell you a real funny story. My father was really much into the opera. So on radio, back then it was radio, but of course we didn't have TV yet. Radio, basically, at 5:30 in the afternoon was the opera. There was a rule in our house. While the opera is on, you do not speak, you sit quietly, and you listen. Well, that was a rule of life for me. So one day, I was out with some friends of mine, and we went to a place in Philadelphia called Victor's. And they have the singing waitresses who sing opera. And it's kind of weird. I had a dish of spaghetti in front of me, and I didn't know, nobody told me they sang. All of a sudden, this guy blurted out this opera. I had the dish of spaghetti on bubble. I was wearing it. It's totally amazing. It scared me half to death. I thought I was back home again. But see, I can laugh about that today. I can look at that differently today. Years ago, I would not have laughed. I would have been so angry and pissed off and everything else. But now I've learned it's okay for things to happen. So some of our traits and characteristics are part of us. They're part of our being. Really in reality, we're connected to the things we grew up with. They're part of our heritage. The thing is to embrace them, look at them positively, not negatively, learn from them, develop the positive promises from them, and the faith and stuff that goes along to it. our creativity. Give that little child permission to become more creative, to discover more beautiful things in that child's life, to be able to experience what that beautiful stuff really is all about. And that's important because so many times we have a tendency not to give that child that kind of permission. I believe that every human being on the face of this earth has a beautiful gift of creativity inside of them. They can only tap it, but tap it in a spiritual way, tap it in a positive way. To look at their gifts, the things they can share with others, ways in which they can interact with other human beings and other people. I think that's so important. Because so many times we have a hard time with that. For a long period of time, I know, I put myself down. My inner child was lost, but now it's found. And now I know that deep down inside that little child is such a great teacher. I'm learning so much from it. And I'm learning to experience the promises, things that will come to us, things that will come in God's time through forgiveness and through healing. That's the beautiful part about the recovery process as we go through it. And so in that 9th step, we're learning unconditional love, to love yourself unconditionally. Too many times we put too many conditions on ourselves. Calm down, relax. We have to love exactly who we are, where we are in the course of our journey. Always remember something. We're not accidents, we're not mistakes. We're exactly who we are supposed to be. We're exactly where we're supposed to be. And the important thing is the embracing of the personal self, to celebrate who you are, to honor who you are, to be in touch with the gift of who you are as a person. That's what's important. To keep opening that door. That all comes through healing, through forgiveness, through doing closure with the past, opening up to new beginnings and new ways. We can develop new traditions and new ways of life. It's amazing. Some of us really got stuck in the old traditions. We can do new traditions today, new ways of life today. I always kind of joke about this around Christmas time because we had traditions in our family. And traditions were always solid. For example, on Christmas Eve, the whole entire family gathered at our house. Our house was so small, I wonder how they got inside. My father would cook supper for everybody, 35 people. And of course, they drank a lot of wine. It's kind of crazy. And then basically, they had the 7 fishes. Back then it was the 13 fishes. And then basically, at midnight, they'll all be half drunk. They go to midnight mass. I don't think they even knew where they were, but that's all right. They had to go to midnight mass. Then come back and have my father cook breakfast for everybody at 1:30 in the morning. Then they go home and rest for a while. They come back the next day from 12 noon to 9 o'clock at night with this famous 9-course meal. You wonder why I have an eating disorder today. It's totally amazing. It's called tradition. Well, you know what's so beautiful about today? My little boy was subjected to a lot of that. I was subjected to it. But I can build new traditions today, new ways of life today. I can do traditions that are healthy. I can do new traditions with new people in my life. My family and I have beautiful traditions today. Beautiful people that come into our life to be teachers to us. Even in recovery, we learn new traditions, new ways, new concepts every day. It's a constant process of growing and of learning. And I really believe that deep down inside, God's gifts will come to each and every one of us if we are open to them. And if we're able to look at the past in a positive way, not a negative way, we're able to learn what I call the wonderful, fantastic gift of forgiveness. See, to me, some of the most powerful spiritual words on the face of this earth. One word is acceptance, a very spiritual word. Come to an acceptance of the reality of what is. Embrace it. Embrace your childhood. Learn from it. Grow from it. Another great spiritual word is, besides acceptance, is being able to look at things through the eyes of unconditional love. Powerful spiritual gift. Be able to look at things in life without conditions, without control. Just to be open to the journey, to learn lessons from it. It's sad sometimes what we do to ourselves as human beings, and we do it to our inner child too. We keep looking for perfection. Talked about this earlier in step 6 and 7. Perfection is death as far as I'm concerned. You know, Life is not supposed to be perfect. We're supposed to have aches and pains, ups and downs, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. The changes we go through. I tell people, a good example of this, I tell people, go to a hospital. Don't check in, by the way, but just go to the hospital, go to the heart station, hook yourself up to a heart monitor. You better pray the sucker's going like this, up and down. There's a straight line, you got a problem. See how simple it is? Life is supposed to be that way. It's a process of learning, of growing, of experiencing. So we have to sometimes go into the pit to come out of the pit to learn. We've got to go through struggle. That's why I always love that concept that even as a child, we went through the dark night, then we go through the light. We move to the other side. We go through the struggle. It's all part of the journey. And so to me, struggle is a great spiritual word because through struggle, we grow. Growth is the next great spiritual word. But one of the most great spiritual words of all is forgiveness, to forgive. Because forgiveness is the gift of healing. Forgiveness is the gift that holds us together. Forgiveness is the gift that teaches us to let go. You see something very beautiful in life when you see people going through the gift of forgiveness. So we have to learn to forgive ourselves, forgive others, be open to it, and remember, all the experiences, all the things we've gone through in life, they're just part of the journey. Each one of us is where we are today. Each one of us is in each other's life for a purpose. We're all called to be lovers to one another, to be open to one another, to grow from one another. It's all part of our journey. It's all part of our life. And so we truly learn to love one another, be connected to each other. We learn from each other. And each person that comes into your life is a teacher. I even joke sometimes and say, even those people that really give you a hard time, great teachers. Maybe they're trying to teach you patience and tolerance. They get on your nerves because they get you in touch with your nerves. That's what it's really all about. It's kind of nice in a way. So we have to look at things this way and laugh a little bit and loosen up a little bit. And that's where that concept of learning new things, new traditions, new ways of life. And you're never done doing that, by the way. It's always something in progress. We're discovering something new. And a good example is the pandemic. We have to learn all new ways of life right now. I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd be on this computer talking to people from all different parts of the country. Never believed that in my home group, we'd have people in my home group from different parts of the country. I never believed that I'd be able to meet some people and connect with people I haven't seen for 30 years, 40 years. To be able to reconnect with people who have moved way out of the area, but now they're connecting back again. So maybe there's a positive side even to that. There's a sad side to it, but a positive side. It's part of the journey of life. And so we're learning over and over again. Things will never be like they were before. It was not supposed to be. The promises bring us to another dimension, something else to learn, something else to grow. And sometimes you got to go through struggle for that. You got to go through a lot of pain sometimes. We're experiencing that in our society today. Struggle, confusion. It's all part of the journey. So instead of looking at it negatively, try your best to look at it through the eyes of unconditional love. Love the people that are around you. Stay close to them. Be grateful for them. Another great spiritual gift, the gift of gratitude, the gift of humility, but above all, the gift of love. There's something beautiful that's said in the scriptures sometimes. A little child shall lead them. And sometimes the simplicity and the beauty of a child, that simplicity and beauty is the child that's inside of you. If you embrace that child and hug that child, you will experience the power and the gift of love that child has. And I believe that our inner child comes to us to teach us the gift of love. And that's why we need to do closure, make settlement, we need to move on, to experience what I call the promises. It's so beautiful in the 9th step We have what we call the 9-step promises. It teaches us that we're going to experience things beyond our wildest dreams or wildest imagination, but that involves faith, that involves trust, that involves openness, that involves growth. Not only as adults, we have to work on that, but also let our child be that way too. I really believe the child's the teacher. I truly believe that. So if we make amends and make peace with our inner child, that little child will blossom inside of us, and a whole new us will come alive on the inside. What I would like to do is share the 9-step promises with you, because I really believe the 9-step promises tell it all. They're connected, and they're part of the concept of the inner child too. So I just want to share them with you. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity. We will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we'll see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our neighbors. Self-seeking will slip away. Whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We'll intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We'll suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled amongst us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. I love the 9-step promises. It's one of my favorite bookmarks I read every day. I really believe that we look back on these steps, especially steps 4 through 9, look back on faith. If we truly are able to open up and be in touch with what's inside of us and heal and move forward, and that's what life is really all about. We're not going to solve all the problems of life. They're here from the beginning of time. They'll be here to the end of time. But we can work on ourselves and be able to interconnect with the people around us and grow from our connection to others. And learn that that's what's important. You're not going to save the world. It's not supposed to be saved. We have to be able to work within our own selves. So if I could truly give the gift of love, as I give to my inner child to one other person, then I'll give it to another person. We pass on things. So take time today as we celebrate the gift of the inner child, the gift of healing, the gift of forgiveness. Don't forget to pass on the beautiful gifts God has given you, because those gifts will grow if they're passed on. If you hold them back, they won't grow. So be open to that, and that's what's important. So we're going to finish this series next week by doing steps 10, 11, and 12. We'll spend some time on prayer, meditation, and talk about service. A real important part of the gift of the inner child. And so I want to close with a prayer that will ask our higher power to guide us and help us on this journey. Let us pray. God, our higher power, we come before you today in prayer. We ask your help. We ask you to guide us and help us to the gift of forgiveness and healing. Help us to be able to look at things that have occurred in the course of our life, to look at our history, to look at our past, to be able to learn from it, grow from it, move forward from it. Teach us to realize the beautiful gift that we are as a human being. We ask you to help us, guide us, but above all, we thank you. We come to you with the gift of gratitude, the attitude of gratitude. We come to you because you are our teacher, you are our guide, you are our strength. We thank you in a very special way for the gifts you've given us. Thank you for giving us the strength to be able to look at ourselves, to be able to discover things about ourselves. Thank you for the gift of play, to be able to laugh, to celebrate, look at new things and new directions in life. Teach us always to realize how special things will be if we have faith and we have trust. Know that deep down inside each and every one of us, there's this beautiful energy, this beautiful gift, this gift of love that we have inside of us. Share it with everybody that you meet. pray, ask the higher power to guide us, and help all those who have a hard time discovering their inner child. We also pray in a special way for all those who have gone before us, our teachers. As I look back on our memorial wall starting point, see all the names on that wall, I pray every day and not forget any of them, for they are family. We're all connected to one another in the gift of family and the gift of love. So with gratitude, with humility, the gift of love, we come together as a family and we pray that each and every one of us be able to heal and move forward with the gifts that you have given us. We pray in gratitude and we pray in your name. Amen. And now I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and we're going to say the Serenity Prayer, and we'll do the we version of the Serenity Prayer.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. God's will, not mine, be done.